QU.01, we're going to start today with properties of quadratics and exactly what is that. So in the past, we've always dealt with equations that look something like this here. And you'll notice that in all these equations, we have an x and a y term, and that's it. Or we might have something like y equals 6, which would be a horizontal line, or we have something like x equals -2, which would be a vertical line. Those are certain equations we could have as well. But this is what we've dealt with in the past. We've dealt with linear functions where it has been a perfectly straight line. We might have something that looks like that. We might have something that looks like that, or in essence, whatever straight line we may have. So these are all similar. They have an x and a y term in the equation. The x term has what we would consider a degree of 1. The y does as well, but that we're going to always have. So the x term has a degree of 1, meaning that it's to the power of 1. And we don't need to write that in as x to the power of 1 is just x, so it doesn't really change anything. We're going to today take a look at a quadratic equation, okay, and how does it work, except that the x variable has a degree of 2, okay, so we're going to have x squared, x to the power of 2. This is what it's going to look like right here. Okay, y equals x squared plus 1. Okay, that is what we would call a quadratic because we have an x term that is squared. Okay, it's x squared. It's whatever value of x we take and we are squaring it. So what does this look like when we graph it out? Now remember, a linear function is always a nice straight line. What happens when we have a quadratic? Well, what we're going to do here is I'm going to make a little table of values, and then we're going to take that and we're going to graph it out, draw a line through the points, and see what does it look like. So I've picked 5 points, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. These are often really nice points to pick. Sometimes we'll have to pick bigger ones, smaller ones, but these kind of surround 0. We deal with negatives and we deal with positives, and it's going to give us a nice general idea as to what it looks like. So if x is -2, we're going to plug that into our equation. So this is -2 squared plus 1. -2 squared plus 1. -2 squared is 4, plus 1 is 5. We're going to continue doing this for all of our points here. So we're going to use when x is -1. -1 squared is 1, plus 1 is 2. When we put 0 in, 0 squared is 0, plus 1 is 1. And then we're going to take 1 squared. 1 squared is 1, plus 1 is 2. And finally, we take 2. 2 squared plus 1. 2 squared is 4, plus 1 is 5. Now, you may remember when we take a look at linear functions, we're going to always be going up. If the x is always going up by 1, the y is always going to go up by the exact same thing, which is our slope. This is different here. We notice that it goes from 5 to 2 to 1 and back up to 2 and back up to 5. Now, what is this going to look like when we graph it out? Well, let's see if my pen is going to work here. 2, 4, 6. There we go. And I'm going to put that in over here as well. 2, -4, -6. So when we put these points in, we're gonna plug them in and label them. -2, 5 is right here. -2, 5. -1, 2 is right here. -1, 2. 0, 1 is right there. 0, 1. And 1, 2 is right there. And 2, 5 is right here. Okay, those are the 5 points that we got through here. Now, every time we have an equation, as long as it doesn't have certain context to it, but in this case here, it's just an equation, we can draw a line through the points as best as possible to connect all the points. Now, you'll notice these points here give us this type of line. And this is graphing a quadratic. Now you'll notice that the quadratic here has a bit of an odd shape. It is in fact kind of like a U, right? And so that is what we have as a quadratic. And we're going to go through how we also call that a parabola later on, and we'll talk about what we need to do for that. But this is what happens when we take the points from our table of values and plug them into our chart. Now, if we were to, let's say, do -3 or +3, we would just keep on going up, farther up. And this would keep on going higher and higher and go up into what we may consider infinity, or past what we would have on this screen here. So that is a quadratic, and that is how we graph a quadratic.